So welcome to Module D. This module looks at teams management and can be found in Chapter 8 of your textbook. So the learning outcome, to explain the difference between teams and groups, to understand how teams operate and how team building activities enhance their operation, and of course to describe principal types of teams within organisations. So obviously, as you can see here, the differences between a team and a group. A group is a group of people that can be made up of, two or more people, whereas a team is a group of people that has aims and goals to achieve within an organisation, as the diagram outlines here. So virtual teams, a collection of people who are geographically separated but still work together closely. The second one, the primary interaction among members is by some electronic information and communication process. The third one, virtual teams can comprise people with different knowledge and be diverse, and they obviously require good leadership. Then we have Leadership and Motivation of the Virtual Team by Garrett. So obviously you say hello, you build trust, you recruit with care, and do not rely on email, encourage dissent, use technology thoughtfully, you have to measure your outcomes, which is essential, and you use virtual teams to go where the talent is and work more efficiently. And do not say virtual teams aren't quite the real thing, because they are. So the role structure of the organisation, which I think is a vital aspect of team management. The roles that an individual plays within a group is influenced by a combination of 1, situational factors, and 2, personal factors, which includes things like values, attitudes, motivation, and ability, etc. So then we have the role sets. It's the range of associations or contexts within whom an individual has meaningful interaction. So please pay attention to this one, as it is quite vital. So then we have a diagram here which points to the role set. What are the tasks and individuals of an organisation? And obviously, as the slide says, it's a representation of a possible role set in the work setting. Then we have role conflict. Conflict is something that is inevitable in organisations. And a number of factors can influence this, like role incompatibility, role ambiguity, the overload of the role, or even the underload of the role. So then we have a diagram here which looks at the role relationships and conflicts, and as you can see, all the dimensions and concepts are nicely linked for you to get an understanding of how role relationships and the essence of conflict are interlinked and related as well. So then we have individual team roles, according to Belbin. So what is a team role? A team role is a pattern of behaviour, characteristics of the way in which a certain team member does interact, or you can say engage, with another team member whose performance serves to actually facilitate the progress of the team as a whole or as a unit. The strength in any one role is commonly associated with particular allowable weaknesses. So what are the 9 team roles according to Belbin? We have 1, plant. Number 2, the resource investigator. Number 3, the co-ordinator. Number 4, the shaper. Then the monitor evaluator, team worker, implementer, completer, and of course, last but not least, specialist. So what is the plant? It's about team role contribution. Okay, and it's about being creative, unorthodox, you solve difficult problems as a team, and obviously you are imaginative. And through imagination and creativity can bring things like innovation as well. Then we have the allowable weaknesses. Ignores details and too preoccupied with the way communication does occur and whether it occurs effectively, as the slide outlines. Then we have the resource investigator, which is team role contribution and looks at things like extrovert, enthusiastic, communicative, explores opportunities, and develops contacts. So this is one essence of Belbin's 9 roles. The allowable weaknesses: you're either over-optimistic or you lose interest once enthusiasm has passed. So then we have the co-ordinator. Mature, person is confident, a good chairperson, does clarify goals so there's no ambiguity, promotes decision-making, delegates well, and of course then we move over to the allowable weaknesses. They can be seen as manipulative, and obviously they delegate personal work, so obviously free riding can occur. Then we have the shaper. So team role contribution, continuing on, challenging, the person is dynamic, thrives on pressure, has the drive and courage to overcome obstacles, and then we move over to allowable weaknesses. it can provoke others and hurts others' feelings too. The monitor evaluator. Then we have team role contribution continued. They're sober, they're strategic, they're disconcerting, they always see other options, and they are good at actually judging in an accurate manner. Then we move over to allowable drive and the ability to inspire others, and they're usually overly critical. Then we have the team worker. Cooperative, mild, perceptive, and diplomatic, listens, builds, continuing on, they avert friction, and they always want to calm the waters. Allowable weaknesses, they're not really good at making decisions when it's, in difficult situations, and they can be easily influenced by others. Then we have the implementer. They're disciplined, reliable, conservative, and efficient. They turn ideas into practical actions. And of course, the allowable weaknesses are somewhat inflexible and slow to respond to new possibilities. Then we move on to the completer. They're conscientious, they're anxious, they always look out for errors and omissions in work. But the good thing is they do deliver on time. The allowable weaknesses, they're inclined to worry unduly, they don't want to delegate, and the bad thing is they can also be seen as a nitpicker. Then we have the specialist. Single-minded, self-sharing, they're always dedicated, which is an essential part of being a good team member. They provide knowledge and skills in rare supply, but on their disadvantage, they contribute on a narrow front, and they dwell on technicalities and they overlook the bigger picture. Now we move on to a critical assessment of Belbin. There are concerns about the theoretical basis of the inventory. There are questions about the relationship between personality and team roles. There pretty much is a lack of clear differentiation between the roles, and obviously there is an insufficient account taken of the type of tasks or responsibilities that may be involved. Then we have the influence of variable organisational factors, and obviously it's overly reliant on the psychological response to teamwork. So then we move on to Benne and Sheats' classification of team member roles. So there's 1, the group task roles, 2, group building and maintenance roles, and 3, individual roles. First one, it's about selecting and clearly defining and having the ability to solve issues, which is a must. The second one, the analysis of member functions to ensure the ability of the group to have group-centred behaviour. The third one, individual roles, directed towards the satisfaction of personal needs and not related either to the task or functioning of the group themselves. Then we come to a very interesting concept of sociometry, a method of indicating the feelings of acceptance or rejection amongst group members. So what is involved in the concept of sociometry? Sociograms, which does depict the choices, preferences, likes or dislikes of interactions between individual team members. The second one, it displays the structure of the group and record the observed frequency and or duration of contacts amongst members. And this is an example of a diagrammatic sociogram. This is occasionally used by researchers and HR managers, but again, it depends on the organisational strategy, culture, and what the organisation wants to be and their reputation. And obviously that has a link to how often these sorts of things are used or depicted by managers or HR managers too. And this is another one, a self-insight and the Johari window, which again is an outline of what teamwork does consist of, and it gives you an outline of all the components like public, hidden, blind or unknown, in terms of how team members may work and how teams also may be managed. Then we come to social loafing. It's a very interesting concept. So you have 4 members in a group, for example, the other one just rides off the others. Or it's otherwise known as the Ringleman effect. So it's the tendency for the individual members of the group to expend less effort than if they were working alone. Total group effort is therefore less than the expected sum of individual contributions. So you ask yourself as a HR manager, how do you control that? Well, I think the main essence is you communicate, you engage, you direct people, you set clear goals, and you maintain that communication to all your group members that it's important for everyone to contribute equally. So then we have the risky shift phenomenon. Instead of taking fewer risks and making safer or more conservative decisions, the reverse is often the case. So we have preferences for conformity, means that there is a tendency for groups to make more risky decisions than the individual members would. So then we come to the concept of groupthink. So groupthink results in the propensity for the group to just drift along and can be apparent in any organisational situation where groups are relied on to make important decisions for the benefit of the organisation. Brainstorming. Brainstorming, or thought showers, involves the group adopting a free-willing attitude and generating as many ideas as possible for the benefit of the individual, the team, and the organisation itself. The more wild or apparently far-fetched, the better. So procedures for brainstorming. It is based on maximum freedom of expression and informality. Members are encouraged to elaborate or build on ideas, and the initial emphasis is on the quantity of ideas, not their quality. And there needs to be good recording and reporting of the ideas. So this is an example, as you can see, of creative thinking. And how do you build effective teams? You emphasise common interests and values. You use ceremonies and rituals, so it's good to build an important organisational culture. You use symbols to develop group identification, so who you are as a group. You encourage and facilitate social interaction. You tell people about group activities. You conduct process analysis, and you conduct alignment sessions and increase incentives for mutual cooperation. Autonomous work groups, so you emerge from patterns of work redesign, and key features include specific goals. Group members have freedom of choice and discretion, and collectively members have the necessary expertise to succeed in the task. The level of external supervision is reduced, and feedback and evaluation are related to the performance of the group as a whole. So the next slide, skills to build self and management teams. So self-management, excellent communication, leadership, responsibility, and you have others like strategic planning and enjoyment, and obviously resolving conflict, which is an absolute must. So now we come to the conclusion. What is the role of the team leader? It's about building successful teams, and it requires effective leadership with an emphasis on trust, clear communication, full participation, or otherwise known as engagement, and obviously self-management. So just to finish up with a fascinating quote, it's the influence and usefulness of team leaders comes not from their delivery of traditional supervisory and control methods, but from their ability to lead from the front and in training, coaching, and counselling their team members to achieve high standards of performance. Thank you very much.